I'm alive.
And we are now live. We are here at the first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, I mean, and for the podcast for Freedom for Church in the Woods to go over what Tom talked about on Sunday. And welcome everybody, and to all who are listening in. Obviously, our hope is that we all learn something tonight. Um, that we walk away stronger than we are now. Um, Sunday, um, well, the Sundays are getting more and more interesting as time goes on with Gail and I, and we're going through some stuff personally, and the marriage is as strong as ever, which is the amazing part because there have been times um, that you would think things would get rough, but they don't. God seems to just bring us closer and closer and closer to be able to help each other through the things that we go through. And, for us, it's been health mainly for her, a couple smaller things for me. But when when I heard a few weeks ago that Tom was going to go through Hebrews, of course, the last time I remember going through Hebrews was with John Glenn. And I like the book because it makes me look at myself. And to look at myself, I got to get real. Um, 2 weeks ago, Tom said to look for the word better. And I did not write it down here, but maybe I did. Yes, here I did 2 weeks ago. I wrote down that in my version, which is the NIV, they use the word superior, better, or superior. Um, we started out talking about angels a couple weeks ago. It's amazing that the power that angels have, the job that they have to care for each of us, the uh, thousands of them that were available to Christ. So when we spoke this last week about a hedge of protection, that was the first thing that came to mind was the angels. Of course, Christ. I mean, yeah. I mean, we have Christ living. We have the mind of Christ. We have the Holy Spirit living in us. But to me, when I think of a hedge of protection, I think of I have a friend of mine that runs safaris over in Africa, and I've talked to him before about some of the stuff that I've seen on TV, wondering if it's real. And when they build like a fence around their village, a hedge of protection from the lions, from the leopards, from the hyenas. Um, so this hedge of protection, um, it took me back to the angels from a couple weeks ago. The What's happened to me has been less and less and less of depending on myself. Because the old religious me said I had to do right, dress right, learn correctly, And by that, I mean like memorizing verses. We even taught it to our kids, put them through. There was that thing that we used to do on Wednesday nights with the kids. I can't remember what it was called, but they would go and they would learn verses every week, and they won little ribbons or little badges for their verses. Not a bad thing. Nothing wrong with memorizing God's word. But when it becomes my little g God, when I will be worthy and I will be prosperous and I will be somebody because I do that, I, I, I'm missing the boat, and I'm missing the reality of what Christ truly can be to me. Um, when Tom, when you took it to Galatians and mentioned that it was to the Gentiles, that's us, and then His word is. We'll go back to the. I don't know what the first written word was that they had in the Old Testament, but in my mind, it's the Ten Commandments. I suppose there were scrolls and such things in the Holy of Holies, but the 10, as far as something that everyone would see, I wonder what the first thing was that a crowd of people saw. And the first thing that comes to mind for me was Moses coming down with the Ten Commandments. Then we're talking about the law, but the law was good because it brought us to the salvation that each of us, all of us on here, watching on the sidebar, a part of the group, that all of us came to, that all of us recognized we needed because we couldn't fulfill those laws. I couldn't do it. Try as I may, want to, all the want to in the world, didn't get it done. And then at some point, I think you alluded to it or said it Sunday, Tom. I didn't get a chance to listen to it today, but at some point we just kind of say, well, throw it up in the air and I give up. What's the point? I can't do it, try as I may, so I give up. And then at that point, we actually go one of two directions. We either go back to the old law or we go forward to Christ and go, it's all you. I can't do this without you. I need you. I want you. And Martin, you've told me 1,000 times, what do you want? And if I want the law, God will let me go there. And when I go there, He'll let me mull around and trudge through it and get all dirty with it and find out that that's all it's going to do is make me look dirty because I can't fulfill it. But when I come to Christ, He shows all of us that we are pure. What He sees is what He made, what we can't do on our own. And this new life that I have, when I say back 20 years ago, okay, I'm a Christian, but I'm just not growing. What now? There's got to be something more. So I'm a Christian. What now? Be good? Nah, that's law. Do well? Nah, that's law. Give my tithe on a regular basis because I have to? Nah, that's law. Listen to the Spirit? Now we're talking some grace. But when I say now we're talking some grace, when you mentioned Sunday about mixing grace and law, yeah, that's kind of what it made me think of. Okay, well, I've got this, and God, I appreciate this, but I got this over here because I need to do this. If I'm going to be the head of the house or the man of the house, then I need to do this. But over here, I'm just going to trust you. And ultimately, what I find is I'm trusting Him for the things that are easy, and over here, I'm trying to muddle my way, taking care of the things that are hard, which is really, you think about it, it's kind of the reverse of what you would think it would be. Give Him the hard stuff and us do the easy stuff. But for some reason, it doesn't turn out that way. And like Gail and my prayers for her have turned from God, show us the next doctor to go to so we can get this taken care of. See the we in there? And we have our responsibility to go do things that we need to go do, but at the same time, we need to be trusting Him. God, show us what to do next. Because truly, I mean, we're at our wits' end at this point. We have no idea what to do next. But we're taking steps as we take them, and we're supporting one another. And that's where loving other people like Christ has to start. It has to start here at home. If I'm not doing it here at home, how can I do it with anybody else? And so, first off, I got to get outside the law and into His grace and recognize that He's got me. I can't fail in this. It's not that I can't fail because then I'm screwed. It's that I can't fail, period. I can't lose. I have won. It's already done. He said it on the cross. It's finished. Anyhow, that's a few of the things that Sunday made me think of.
I got a question. It looked like you were about to say something, Martin. Did I cut you off?
No, mate, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I actually had two questions, but I think this one I like better. Why do we often neglect the home, as you were talking about, Bill?
Yeah.
In favor of strangers, as far as God's love is concerned?
Because it's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's less at stake, right?
Well, yeah.
There's less at stake to go out on the street corner and ask a perfect stranger if they know Jesus than there is to be real, honest, and transparent with your wife or your kids.
Yep.
Or with yourself.
Or yourself, yeah.
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 Look, don't push it, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's exactly what you were talking about last night when you're coming to the end of last night, Sunday. I listened to it last night. That's such an easy comment you made, Tom, about mixing grace and legalism.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But in my life, the way that works out is I'll extend the grace to me and the law to you.
Yeah.
Because God says I'm perfect and I'm believing it. It's the rest of you that are messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I'm going to believe the gospel for you because that's what God's telling me to do. And really what I'm doing is I'm judging and condemning you inside my head. And until you reach this certain criteria, then you're not worthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There is no mixing law and grace. It's all law. Until, like Bill just said, you surrender.
Yeah.
You know, we Cindy and I have been going through the same thing Bill and Gail have, as far as IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Out of the blue, about 6 years ago, the things that we usually ate, Cindy couldn't eat. And it got worse and worse and worse. She lost a ton of weight. She didn't leave the house for probably 3 or 4 months. And it's better than it was, but so I know what Bill's saying. It wears you out. You know, just when you think it's safe to get back in the water, it isn't. You know, and then you analyze. You go back on the last 3 days of what was eaten or what was not eaten, or did the wind blow to the east or to the west, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What time you know, I'm joking, but I'm not, because it gets to the point where it's like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
It gets to the point where it's almost comical, and it's absolutely not. But sometimes you just got to laugh. Like,
yeah, you have to laugh.
Yeah.
You know, and what happens is you find your dinner time conversation revolves around things that you shouldn't really discuss at the dinner table. Because the rest of the world is shut out, you know, no phones at the dinner table, whatever. But it's I said all that to say this. I gave up looking for a formula in that, because that's what I was doing. And I had to deal with my own freak out, which was watching the person that I loved shrivel to nothing. And that's what I had to deal with. You know, I can't fix her. I can't monitor everything that she puts in her mouth. I can't, you know, there's all this list of things that I can't do. But it doesn't mean I don't try. It doesn't mean, you know, I use every day. And by using, I mean I'm trying to fix her, or I'm trying to fix you guys, or I'm trying to fix someone. Because, like we just said, it's easier for me to focus out here than rather than take that trip in. You know, the thing that got me about what you were saying on Sunday, Tom, was I wrote it down here. When your focus is on right and wrong, what that is saying is, I'm wrong. I need to find out what's right. Now, that might not be for everybody, but that was what I heard after I listened to what you were saying today. So, put that in the gospel perspective. My flesh will never be right. And I can spend the rest of my life trying to not do what's wrong and do what's right, and miss the point completely. Because it's not about that. It's about surrender. It's about laying down and going, I can't do this. You know, I don't know how to talk to Bill about what he's dealing with. I don't know how to talk to Ron or Tom about what they're dealing with, but I know a man who does. It's no different, but with legalism, I was talking to somebody last week, the end of last week, and the more we spoke, the more I heard it's more important. The words that came out of their mouth was, well, I'm not wrong. well, I'm not wrong. And they weren't wrong, but it was at the sacrifice of the relationship. It was more important to be right or wrong than it was to look at, even entertain reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in my walk, in my relationship with God, in our relationship with God, there's no getting away from not dealing with our past. You know, when Paul said to the Galatians, "Oh, you foolish Galatians, who's bewitched you?" They're flesh. One guy decided to take the easy route and not deal with his stuff, and they all jumped on the bandwagon. Now, I don't know about in your lives, but in my life, I come to a crossroads quite often in my life where I could go the old familiar route. Yeah, it goes around the mountain, but using the word, you know, if your hand offends you, cut it off. If your eye offends you, poke it out. I know that that's not going to happen on that route. But when I go down this route here, that's real and authentic and the leadership of the Spirit, I don't know what's going to happen down there. And that's where that trust comes in that Bill was talking about. He's going to take us places where we've never been before. And that is absolutely petrifying, because we can all play these religious games and sound good, look good. You know, I could come on here on a Tuesday night and totally blow smoke up everybody's arse, turn it off, and I look like the best thing since sliced bread. But I can't do that to myself. You know, somewhere along the line, I made a decision to be authentic, to be real. And that is, that's still that was the attraction of these men that I came across: John Glenn, Terry Morris, Mike Lewandowski. Mike Lewandowski was kind of on the fence at times, but that was Mike.
Yeah.
They were authentic.
Yeah.
What you saw was what they got, warts and all. There was no front. There was no facade. If you didn't want to go out to Freedom Ranch and talk to anybody, there's a bench over there. Nobody will bother you under that tree. That's heaven on earth, man, for somebody that's dealing with crap. You know, people might stop by and say, "Yeah, you doing all right?" That was it. There was no agenda. You know, you don't have to, you know, if you sit on the third picnic table from the right, it doesn't mean you've got to sit there for the rest of your life. You know, so getting back to I'm sorry?
Don't sit in my seat.
Right, right. Yeah. But see, the thing that I heard on Sunday was the critical event. You know, what is the critical event? Loving someone else. How do you love someone else? By knowing that you're loved.
Well, you have to.
Despite
otherwise you can't put yourself aside.
Right. But
I can't get myself out of the way.
Right. But Tom said that early on. I think what I heard after that was, it's only believing who you are that allows you to love other people.
That's right.
Because really, when everything's said and done, this flesh doesn't give a shit about anybody except me.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I can actually hear what Tom is saying, and the fact that I can actually pay attention for the 3 minutes that he was talking, is a miracle.
Yeah.
Because this is a rat's nest up here, you know what I mean? I'm going 10 different directions, and who knows what spectrum I'm on, you know. But then you deal with our conditioning. am I really believing the gospel for myself? Like you said, Bill, it starts here and then it goes out. Right?
Yeah.
What am I really believing? What am I saying? What am I doing? You know? Because ultimately it is what God does for us, what we can't do for ourselves. And it's wrapped up in our identity. It's who He's made us to be. Our desire is to let go of the old and hang on to the new, right? Because the old man was death, the new man is life. But see, in His infinite wisdom, He takes us through each issue, for lack of a better word. Oh, you don't know you're forgiven? Let me show you what that looks like. And you'll have a circumstances where, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you know that you're forgiven. Same with accepted. Same with love. Same with meaning and purpose. You want to know what your real meaning and purpose is? If it's in your career, it will fall apart. And He'll show you what your real meaning and purpose is for you, not an umbrella policy. But those are the times when you'll be sitting underneath a tree rather than at the picnic tables, because you don't want to talk to anybody because the rug's been pulled out from underneath you and you're going, oh shit. That's Him doing for you what you can't do for yourself. And when He finally puts you back on your feet, you'll know that you're loved. You'll know that you're accepted. You'll know that you're forgiven. And then the next time it will go again, and you'll go through the same thing all over again. But that's the renewing of our mind. That's the glory to glory it talks about in Corinthians. But anyway, talking too long.
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, so I got another question. This was actually my first question. So why do we gravitate towards the law? What draws us towards the law? Hey, Frank. I was just saying, what draws us towards the law? Why were these Hebrews drawn to the law? Why were the Gentiles, the Galatian Gentiles, drawn towards the law? Why did the law look so appealing?
I think it's fear, Tom. I think the author here kind of addressed that in the second verse. For if the word spoken by angels was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received just recompense of reward. We use a different translation that I think makes a little more sense, and it's the New American Standard. Or if the word spoken through angels proved unalterable, and every transgression and disobedience received a just penalty, how will we escape? I think that he's hitting on something that often motivates us to do different things, and that is fear. We're afraid of punishment. We're afraid of well, maybe God's grace isn't good enough. Maybe I do need to do something else. Maybe I should be obeying the Ten Commandments. Maybe I should get circumcised. You know, I mean, all of these thoughts are added on to the fear that we have of a revengeful and hateful God who's just out to punish us. And I think what he's saying here, then he goes on in verse 3, He says, how shall we escape or flee from this if we neglect so great a salvation? If we don't accept that Jesus was enough, then how are we going to escape it? And later in Romans 6:6, or in Hebrews 6:6, I think you referred to that, Tom, on Sunday, that we have fallen from grace. We've fallen away. We've escaped from that great salvation that he's talking about here and slipped back into that legalism, and that due to the fear we have and the doubt that we have that God is really a good God, that God has really saved us, that God has given us freedom, that the freedom that we can't even fully recognize or understand at this point. So I think that's, to me, that's the motivation that I see in going back to the law and falling from grace, in that sense, that we move away from that great salvation that we have. And in our thinking, did he really make me, like Christ? Did he really save me that way? Is my identity in Christ enough? So that's where I think, that's where our struggle is in this life, fighting the flesh that is scared to death of the coming destruction that it's going to receive. And that's so ingrained in us that we carry that over, and it's a constant conflict from what the Spirit of God is telling us. You're okay, child. You're my child. And yet it don't feel like it sometimes. So that's my take on your second question there.
Well, I agree with that, because certainly fear is antithetical to faith. I mean, they're opposites. They're mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's another aspect of our flesh too that we need to be honest about, and that's that our flesh wants some credit. In other words, our flesh wants to shine. So without the law, how can our flesh shine, right? How can our flesh prove its worth? And I don't know about your flesh, but my flesh constantly wants to do that. So, I talk about a wreck, man, between the fear and the wanting to shine. My flesh is just really runs amok, constantly. And so I think the answer, the only way out of it, like you said, how do we escape? How do we get out of this mess? Is to constantly choose to believe that constantly Jesus is doing for us what we can't do for ourselves in every way, shape, or form. Otherwise, my flesh just runs wild. And I think we're all susceptible to it. And that was kind of the point I was trying to make Sunday, and that certainly I can understand why the Hebrews were susceptible to this, because for 42 plus generations, this is all they'd known. But then you take the heathens, the Gentiles, and they were just as susceptible as the Jews were. So I think that points back to our flesh. That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the motivation of the flesh, though, is to try to save ourselves, because of the fear. I think Satan knows he's defeated. I mean, I'll put it in this way. This is kind of what I'm trying to describe. Is that Satan knows he's lost already. I mean, when he got kicked out of heaven, he knew the end was coming. And our flesh knows that. And what we're trying to do is bring our offerings to God, thinking that that's going to somehow count for us instead of against us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that fear of not knowing, that fear of knowing that we don't live up to the law, but we still got to try.
Mm-hmm.
That's what drives us to try, is the fact that we know that the flesh knows that it's going to end, but it's going to keep on trying. It's trying to save itself.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think that's one of the most frustrating things in my life, is just when you get over realizing that, you know, like you say, you've been trying to save your own arse in this particular area. You don't even get 5 minutes to like, oh man, that's awesome. Thank you, Jesus, for that. You know, that personal revelation. And here comes another one. You know what I mean? You're like, is it ever going to end? Is it ever going to end? No, it's not. You know, because from the minute that we are born, the legalism starts. Our conditioning is based on legalism.
Mm-hmm.
What to do and what not to do
Mm-hmm.
to meet those needs, you know? And that's why we find ourselves in such compromising positions throughout our life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's easy to say, you know, oh, you know, Jesus said he only does what the Father tells him to do. I'd love to be able to do that 24/7.
Yeah.
But I've got this the flesh doesn't like to wait, you know. I've done a lot of waiting here lately,
Mm-hmm.
and it sends me right off the deep end.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. But
What is it with? But by the Spirit, we do wait for the hope
Right.
of righteousness, right?
right.
But again, you know, my flesh still wants to grab some glory away from the Spirit. You know, wants to be in charge, wants to be running things. I'm just being honest about it. You know, that's what I deal with it.
Have you ever asked him why, Tom?
I just think that my flesh is, you know, pretty much, since it's enmity against God, it's that's all it knows. You know, that's all it knows. And then I get to the illusion that somehow grace and law will mix, and that's totally an illusion. You know, and I think that comes from the great illusionist himself, you know, the devil. That grace, the lifestyle of grace and a lifestyle of law will mix, you know, will be compatible. I'm not saying that I always live a lifestyle of grace.
No,
That lifestyle of
no.
law, it's you know, it's compelling, and it's that's the temptation, to try to use the law to glorify yourself, even if it's at the expense of others. You know.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, most of the Christian world is being sold that idea that now that you're a Christian, here's what you need to do to be a good Christian. And, you know, the end run is you know, there's no critical event happening, because everybody's so busy trying to prove their own worth and save themselves that it's impossible to have time to genuinely love other people. You know, and the only way we can do that really is when our cup runs over. when God fills the cup to the point where it runs over. That's what has to happen. And that's why I think it was so brilliant, the Alpha series, that hierarchy of needs. That really what that demonstrates is that, until you receive God's love and forgiveness, you've got none to give.
Right. Right. And that one of the, I can't tell you how many times I went to John Glenn looking for some answers and counsel and all that, and he would, because he's the preacher, he's supposed to have all the answers, and he would turn around and go, well, what's God telling you to do? What's he telling you right here, right now? And it would, because my legalistic thinking in the middle of a valley will go, I've got to find somebody who knows more than I do. Maybe I'm just doing something wrong. So I drive all the way out to the ranch, and he'd go, what's God telling you to do?
Yeah.
And, you get pissed off and angry because he's not telling me what I want to hear. But
Right.
believe me, it would stop me in my tracks, because the legalism in my flesh wants to fix something first.
Yeah.
Instead of asking who I am. Am I really your son? Am I really in the palm of your hand going through this crap? Because that's the gospel. That's living the gospel. The doubt and the confusion and the fear is what he uses to bring us to his truth.
Right.
But here we are in our flesh trying to avoid all that. It's admitting that we're powerless, coming to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Well, if your goal in life is to prove to the outside world how spiritual you are, or how together you've got your life, you're going to stay in that second step and wonder why you can't love somebody else. Because you're full of crap. You're full of crap. It isn't until we make a decision, we lay everything down and we make a decision to turn our life and our will over to the care of God as we understand it. That life and will is the bottom half of the Solomon syndrome. We're giving that to him. So all those lies that we have in our head, I'll be worthy if, I'll be okay if, I'll be all right if, and you fill in the blank, that's what you're giving to God.
Mm-hmm.
And there's millions of them, because we've been conditioned since we popped out. Oh, I'll be okay if I fill in the blank. So why do I go to legalism? Because it's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
It's got guardrails. I know how to play that game. This walking by faith and not by sight freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm getting better at it.
And
then
if it was just walk by faith, and you didn't, and he didn't add the and not by sight part, just walk through your own house, close your eyes, and walk from one end of your house to the other like you normally walk with your eyes open. I don't mean just easing along, etching one foot out there so you don't bump into the next thing. By faith and not by sight. Okay, so I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to trust you. And what it boils down to is I don't trust God. Well, and then the question you asked earlier, Martin, have I ever asked God why? And honestly, I'll tell you, no, I've never asked him why. I don't know why. I never asked him why, so don't ask me that either. But it's probably fear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as I say, you go right back to fear again.
Yeah, because, how dare I ask God such a question? Why don't I trust you? And, but, and I have a supreme example in Adam that he's not going to squish me like a bug, because Adam, in his first statement after the fall, not only did he throw the woman under the bus, but he threw God under the bus. The woman that you gave me, like he was the supreme being, Adam, and here he was trying to come up with some excuse. And so we're all in this same boat together. Every one of us do it. I don't care who you are. And I mean, John Glenn had me buffaloed because for some reason he had all the answers. He never had a problem, and he just float right through it, and just like there was nothing there. And I just don't know how many times I just shook my head and wondered, how in the hell does he do this? And it was one thing when he had a little church somewhere, and then all of a sudden we got this, 100+ acres and a building and the church going on and a gun range and this and that and an outreach over here and a thing in Fort Pierce. Holy cow, and call him, and there he is on the end of the phone. All, just nothing to it. And it wasn't that there was anything different about him. He bled just like I do. Everything was exactly the same. Trust.
Next question, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm out. All right. My next question is I want to hear what Frank has to say. What do you have to say, Frank? That's my question. Good to see you.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, it's not.
It didn't work this time, did it? For some reason, I have a split screen, and I'm not sure why, and it's kind of confusing me.
We do too.
Yeah, we do too.
And I got a whole nother set of screen over here, so it's a little confusing. I was just checking in to make sure that I'm still believing the same way you guys are. So, I want to make sure where I left off that I came back and I'm still supposed to be believing in the critical moment. Nothing has changed since then, and I'm on the right track. It's all been good, man, so far. I've had a couple things happen that I'll get into another time, but had a couple setbacks, but all's been good, man. God's been showing up. Yeah, life has been okay. Not perfect. It has been okay. I got blessed yesterday with just as I was starting to woe is me again, and life circumstances. Somebody showed up, 20 years old. I haven't seen or heard this person in 20 years, and it was actually refreshing to see God just working an incredible miracle through somebody. And once in a while, God will just do that to me, just to remind me how awesome he is. And it kind of reinitiates, it almost rebaptizes me, like, hey, look what I did to this person, and it was a good person before, when I knew him, but what has God done? What he has done to this point is just remarkable. And I love seeing that change in people. I love seeing what miraculous change God can do. And what's interesting is he looked at me and he goes, nothing has changed with you, Frank, from the day I met you. You're doing the same thing you've always been doing since I met you. And this was a client's parent that I have known for a long, long time. And he's exactly right. I got back in the car and I said, God, you put me on a track to help people and to not understand where I'll ever see the fruits what their lives will ever become. But this is a moment, a witness again that you just showed up and told me everything is. I don't have to see the end result, but once in a while, I'll throw you a little hint. Things are working out in other people's lives, and it all started with loving that person. So
Amen.
it really is just really reaching out and loving other people all the way through. I don't know any other way to put it. I didn't know that I had such an impact on someone's life like that, but I did, and I was never forgot about. And that just it's pleasing. But that statement you made, Tom, about the flesh often wants that recognition. That's what's been pulling on me, because I often sit silent a lot. I try not to kind of get out there and boast. I'm at the end of that. Like, I already had to go through that and get squashed like a bug. And now I realize that if I just do what I'm supposed to do, or be about my Father's business, whatever way you want to put it, it seems to be more subtle if I just let life move on and whatever people. But there's that calling, there's that flesh that's constantly pulling. And it's like, hey, let people know, who you are. And that's that flesh talking. And it started that up a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, you know what? Everybody else is getting this glorified, woe is me, or what, not woe is me, but the attaboys. And it's really me doing it. And that's the part I have to separate. That is, I'm glad you said that, because the flesh does want recognition. And I don't like to feel like I'm being walked over, I guess. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like, there's things that you do that perhaps that they may look like other people are doing it behind the scenes, that you built that foundation. And if anybody has anything to say about it, should at least bring the reality that who started this. And it doesn't do that. It's kind of like talking about Alpha Ministries and never talking about John Glenn. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, this is this wonderful, wonderful ministry out there in Okeechobee, and it's all about Romans 6, 7, 8, and go on about everything, about critical moments, and never talk about the founder, never talk about where this all came from. And that's kind of that flesh, that recognition that you're talking about, that sometimes it just wants to say, hey, remember me. And I'm saying that from a safe place. I'm not saying that, hey, God, remember me. Like, I know he knows who I'm at. There's no doubt that every day I'm having to walk in faith and rely on him for a lot of things. But it does become confusing at times. It does not confusing. It becomes like a wonder. Like, should I say something, or should I continue just to move on with life?
Yeah, I feel uncomfortable when someone says something like, "Wow, that was a great message," or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, if it was a great message, then rest assured it didn't come from me. But to acknowledge that perhaps something was inspiring or a great message, or really helps people, and people give you credit for it, is okay. But if I find myself being uncomfortable with that, then I think it's a good thing. Because in all humility, it's not me doing anything. It's not you doing anything, Frank. It's just God working through you. And we just our job is, like you say, surrender, as Martin says, let him do his thing. And if people get confused about where it's coming from, well, they'll figure it out sooner or later. But certainly I don't want to be on a pedestal, because if you're on a pedestal, then you got somewhere further to fall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I get it. I think I can relate to what you're saying here, Frank.
It's all good. I just wonder why I have two screens like this. This is really weird.
It's something, I don't know, maybe something in the setup tonight or whatever. But yeah, once I just ignored it. I was fine with it. But yeah, you got a big screen and a little screen, but they both show the same thing basically.
Okay.
What happens if you float your mouse over the screen on the left? Does something pop up to where you can?
All it pops up is if you want to click on it, you can enlarge it, but you can't minimize it or make it go away.
Right.
Oh, it's happening to
All
other-
it does is it gets rid of the sidebar.
Yeah,
And
it
now
must
you
be
have
something. Yeah,
two screens that are bigger than they are now.
it must be something that the host is it does, but no matter.
I'll
It's
have
fine.
I'll have to have a look.
Yeah, let's blame the host.
Yeah, blame the host.
Yeah.
You
And I was
legalistic
gonna get
bastards.
with, by the way, Martin, I was going to get with Tom this week, but he left. I mean, no, I'm joking. He wasn't
Too slow.
home. He wasn't home. Yeah.
Yeah, too slow.
Yeah. You know, a bunch of this got me back to the original question in the Bible, in Adam and Eve's life, that sent them down the wrong road. God didn't say you would die, did he?
You won't surely die.
Yeah. God didn't say you would surely die. And so doubt comes in, and I think that I so easily go down that road. And I have to agree with you, Martin, that it's because of familiarity. It's not because I want or like Satan. It's because what he offered there was familiarity. Because he mentioned God. He said, well, surely God didn't, because God wouldn't hurt you, would he? You're the two people in the whole wide world that he loves. Oddly enough, he didn't mention you're the only two people, but you can see how he was playing it, and they fell for it, and they fell for it. It wasn't just Eve, and because Adam was standing right beside her, and so I get it. This fear thing, and you're absolutely right, Martin. I need to spend. Me. This is just for me, but I get what you're saying. I truly need to spend time talking to God about why, and I brought up fear a lot. So why do I fear so much? Why do I not trust you? Because if I trusted him, then I wouldn't go back to the law so often and take back control from things, or on things, or however you want to say that. So, for myself, it's something that I truly need to do. I need to spend more time just conversing with God. I don't care if I'm out mowing the grass. I see that's the other thing with John Glenn. John Glenn loved mowing the grass, but there was a secret there. There was, can you imagine what the conversations were?
He taught me that trick.
Huh?
He taught me that trick.
Yeah.
Either that or he tricked me into mowing the grass, one or the other. It's pretty tricky.
Guess who will talk to you? Yeah. Yeah. All you got to do is mow the grass.
Yeah, the tractor's even better.
Yep. But anyhow.
I enjoy mowing though. I don't know if other people get that. I actually enjoy it.
You have a riding
instant
lawnmower?
gratification.
Huh?
You get instant gratification. You look down behind you and it's
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've always enjoyed it. If it's a riding lawnmower or a tractor, that I've always enjoyed that. And I guess it is part of that. It's part of because you can look and see what's being done.
right.
You can look back and you can see it's kind of like snow skiing. You're on a mountain, you go down a little bit, you stop and you look at your trails. I don't know, but for me, it's just all thinking. Gives you a lot of time to think and
Yeah, it does.
be silent, and you can say what you want and talk to yourself. Nobody's really going to holler at you or look at you stupid. So
I'll actually go read a little bit of scripture, like study a bit, and then I'll get on the mower and say, okay, God, what are you trying to show me there? And very often that's where I'll get some revelation. But I'll tell you another thing. I was reading a story about Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King. He was named after Martin Luther. I'm talking about the original Martin Luther. And do you know where he had his revelation, his big revelation about the law and grace? On the toilet. That's a true story.
Really?
True story, according to his own testimony. So think about that.
Yeah. So there's no need for a pilgrimage to any far off land.
No. Yeah.
That bursts a few bubbles.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to go to Rome. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Don't tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. You know.
Exactly. Exactly. He's got a terrific sense of humor.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I think that brings us to a close for tonight, gentlemen. I don't know what happened to Dan. He was just about to speak and we lost him.
He's been texting me and he said Frank and Bill look great on here. I don't know what's wrong with you, Tom, and Ron and myself. I don't know. It must be his computer or something. But
Yeah.
he's having technical difficulties.
Okay. All right.
that's it. Yes. Okay.
Well, I was excited to see him, and we haven't seen him in a few weeks, and
Right.
so we'll phone him very briefly.
Well, I sure enjoy reconnecting with everybody. My time has just been limited on Tuesdays, and I usually run different times on Tuesday, but today is Veterans Day, and I was fortunate enough to have the day off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right. You would. Yeah.
welcome to all those veterans, and thank you again for your service.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually,
Oddly enough, so did I. I had the day off too.
yeah, I figured you would.
Yeah.
I golfed with some cops today.
We'll pray for you.
That was my afternoon. I did 18 holes with some detectives, and it was good.
Good deal.
Mm.
Good.
Got some new people we haven't seen before or haven't
Yeah.
seen in a while. You want to go through that, Bill?
Sure.
Let's see what we got.
Kelly Odom, Joyce Adderton. I think I said that right. Zaniel Carby, C. Gray, Dolphin Boy XL, Darbad. Thank you for the information, Dar. I appreciate that. Down farther down, Drake Hotchkiss is, I don't know. How does anybody know how to say that name? Because I'm probably getting it wrong. She says, "How are you guys?" So evidently she knows some of us. Ron, Gail, Burnshead, Michelle, Kelly Odom, Christopher Lawrence. Great night, fellas. Fear won't lead us to salvation. The love of Jesus will. Amen, brother.
Amen.
Amen. And I will, again, quote Michelle and others that have said it here tonight. Thank you, all you veterans that put your lives on the line, whether you went over or not. My father was a World War II veteran, flew B-17 bombers, and he was a tail gunner, and he was so good at it, they kept him in Texas. Well, I got a note. I'm on a page on Facebook that's about B-17 bombers. And I had noted, put my dad's picture up there and noted that he got kept in Texas. And this guy pipes up and says, "Well, I'll be darned. My dad got kept in Texas also as a trainer on the B-17 bomber. Wonder if your dad and him knew each other. And both our dads are deceased, so we'll never know.
Mm.
It's quite interesting, that kind of stuff. But thank you all for being willing, whether you went or not, you were willing to give your all, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching, for participating. We'll figure out the technical issues our end. Same bat time, same bat channel next week. Have a great week.